The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Playoff season has started. K4Wins is on fire. Over 400 winners this college football season. 400 winners. What? We'll tell you those numbers here in just a second. Keefer, the executive director, editor of the Las Vegas Sun, down below live from Point Zero out there in Las Vegas. His dad, who was hoping he was going to join us, he's right down the street on the Strip. Kip, we'll see if he's going to come on. Gregory, of course, a man who's been doing the handicapping for 30, 40 years, knows both sides, knows the industry inside and out. And of course, Tony Kurre here. I do sports radio for 30 years, did some handicapping, worked up at ESPN. This is K4Wins. We got all kinds of great plays. We're already hot for the playoff season. We've got record-breaking OT games so far. We have the favorites 13-4 against the spread in the first 17 bowl games. Over-unders 10-7, by the way. 4 games today as we broadcast on the 27th. And really, tomorrow is like almost a full Saturday. We have 8 bowl games tomorrow, so we're going to be getting into a lot of those games a little bit later on as well. And I'd be remiss to say, I know that I love when I go to Vegas, and I haven't been out there a long time, Case, but whenever I see a game that looks like it's going to be one of the worst beats of the year, I like to go to Caesars or like to go to one of the sports books and just see the guys ball. And that Potato Bowl, man, was one of those things where I know a lot of the over-under was 41.5. And I'm sitting, how I feel about 40s in college football. I would take the over all day long. I left alone, but I know a lot of people had the under in that game. And the worst thing that could have happened, it goes, you're not worried about the 2020. You have to worry about the 13-13. It goes overtime. And of course, it goes over the total by 7 points. But yeah, one of the worst beats of the year for a lot of people out in Las Vegas. I do want to ask you before we get into our numbers with Kai, do you find it, Case, easier or more profitable when you have a limited number of games to look at like you do in a bowl season or maybe a March Madness, or when the table's wide open and there's 100 games on a Saturday? Because a lot of people, it's just overwhelming. You can't possibly handicap every basketball game on a Saturday, and a lot of people can't do that with college football. What do you like more?
Yeah, I'm going to try to fight through the disappointment of the Potato Bowl you bring up. I feel like I know that the under was a terrible beat, but I had Fresno. I think I gave it out here, and I felt that was awful too. The kids missed 2 short field goals to win the game, score first. Just felt like everything went against me. I guess I could see why you would say you would prefer the shorter slate where you can really dive into, and I'm sure there's some people that would say that, but I don't know. For me, I've always been, and there's just different philosophies on this, but I've always been more of a volume player. I think at this point of my betting career, I guess, for lack of better words, I feel like I have a little bit of an edge, and when you have that edge, I just think there's a better chance that it's going to realize itself when you get more bets down. So I love the boards with 60 games in the regular season when no one's on a bye. It is a little exhausting. It's a little overwhelming when you sit down Sunday and Monday and try to figure out these games. But ultimately, I think I'd always take that than the smaller ones, because like you said, I mean, in one or 2 games, anything can happen. I feel like we've had the Fresno beat was bad. I know by the final score it wasn't really, but like yesterday was my worst day of bowl season so far by far. And I felt like Pitt could have easily covered that game against Toledo. They started the wrong quarterback for one. If they start that freshman, I don't know what they saw in practice to not think he was the best option. Then they're up by 10, throw the pick 6. I just think you're more at the mercy of variance when you have these shorter slates. Like, so much can just happen in 1 or 2 games. But if I'm getting at least 20 or 30 bets down, I feel like most of the time I'm going to come out a winner, even if it is just small. So I prefer the big ones, but I get why people would like the smaller ones.
If you were watching our podcast, K4Wins, you got Tone. I hit one yesterday with K-State team over, and as well as the over in the game, which was really, really nice. I love those games where, halfway through the third quarter, you can already cash the ticket. It's a pretty good stuff. By the way, I saw a really interesting stat. You're talking about teams going to bowls. These 3 teams have the longest winning streaks of non-losing seasons in college football. The top 3 teams with the longest winning streaks of non-losing seasons in college football, they're all current. Can you guys name any of the 3? And by the way, I'll tell you, 1 played just yesterday and 2 more playing on this bowl season.
No, it sounds like more Tony Kurre useless.
No, and I'll tell you why. No, Boise State has gone 27 years without a losing season.
That makes sense.
Alabama has gone 17 years without a losing season. And Toledo has now gone 16 seasons without a losing season. If you would say what's the third team with the best winning percentage or the best winning streak in all of college football, I doubt a lot of people would say the Toledo Rockets. I just thought that was amazing because you mentioned Toledo a few minutes, so screw you was an excellent trend.
And Toledo owes that to the lefty quarterback not realizing the defensive end is dropping in coverage and threw it right to him.
Absolutely.
And then an uncalled blindside block sets him up for a 60-yard return.
Before we get into the pinstripe, the New Mexico, the Pop-Tart Bowl, everyone, I've heard so much about this Pop-Tart trophy. It actually makes Pop-Tarts. I know I've heard that thing so many million times. Before we get into these games, Kai, tell us how we looked this past weekend here. I know we went over the plateau of 400 wins for the season. What do we got?
Yeah, we did. If you saw the show Monday, we talked about that, but now we're up to 407 wins with 233 losses and 22 ties. Not bad. We're 12-6 since the show Monday, so not bad. That includes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Looking for a huge weekend this weekend as well to continue on the 64+% ratio that we've been hitting on.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just perfect. I mean, I when I told somebody the other day we went over 400 wins, they're like, dude, what are you playing, like 25 ball games a day? And I'm like, no, man, there's hockey on there. There's college basketball. There's NBA stuff. There's whatever you want to play. We don't post 20 or 30 plays every Saturday.
We posted a soccer play yesterday and hit the under in Liverpool.
Exactly. So, I mean, we play stuff. You don't want to play our stuff. That's fine. A lot of people look at our numbers and go, I like this. And if they like it, it goes along with what they're looking at. They'll add a little more money to them. Some people exclusively play with our plays. And if you have, you're actually winning some money. You got some extra cash in your stocking stuffer this year. So that's great stuff. Before we go on to some of the games here, I do want to mention Alabama, Michigan. I'm not here just because we're local here in the Birmingham area. This obviously a show plays internationally, and particularly in Las Vegas. I'm not hearing anything about Michigan, Alabama at all. I know there was an Alabama-Michigan game several years ago where Alabama laid an egg against Michigan. They just didn't show up. And a lot of people, I was on with a legend yesterday. Any possibility that Michigan gets off this high case of beating Ohio State and somehow knocks off Alabama? And that would be wonderful for a 2025 recruiting season for their second-year coach.
I don't think so. I just don't. I'm not high on Michigan. I think that at least a couple of their NFL guys, I don't have it in front of me, but aren't playing defensively.
And it looks like Bama's playing everybody, right?
Yeah, Alabama has everybody. Yeah, I did bet Alabama -11 really early on. I think at openers. And I felt kind of stupid. This dipped all the way to 9.5. I don't know if someone was dummying it, which you see sometimes. These guys before limits open will kind of manipulate the line to get where they are. But then I think it was maybe a week ago or so, just an avalanche of money came in on Alabama. Everyone bet them -9.5. So now they're up to 12. So I don't think this one's going to be very competitive. I wouldn't circle it as one you need to watch, but I think Alabama should win easily.
All right. Kai, there he is. My hoodie man came in here. Thank you, brother. Everyone put their hoodies up.
Luckily we have a show Monday, so we can get more into that. But, Alabama's leading their quarterback, their number one quarterback, number one running back, number one wide receiver are playing. Of course, two of those are the same person in Milrow. Leads them in rushing and as a quarterback. But Michigan seems to be missing quite a bit during this game. I think their number one running back's playing, but it looks like 2, 3, and 4 are not playing. So if anything happens to them, they're in trouble. They're missing some defensive linemen, some offensive linemen. I don't think Michigan cares as much either. I'm not sure Alabama cares, but DeBoer needs something super positive to write off into the sunset with as far as the off season.
4 losses in a year would be. I was talking to Legend yesterday, and obviously he's already looking at next year. And I said, listen, 3 losses is it's inexcusable. I'm sorry, it is. People think that's crazy. It's not crazy for Alabama when you've gone 17 years and you're not used to losing 3 ball games in a year. That means you're not playing for a national championship. Now, Clemson obviously got the shot to do it with 3 losses this year. But all right, so let's look through the games we got going on today, because obviously if you're listening to this, you're listening to it early. We have 3 SEC teams going off today with Arkansas and Texas Tech. Texas Tech -2.5. You got the Protective Bowl, Birmingham Bowl, if you will, Georgia Tech and Vandy, which may be going on right now as you're listening to the show. Syracuse and Washington State. I know you guys love one side of that, and then A&M and USC. We'll start with you, Kai. What do you like out of this 4 ball games? Anything sticking out to you? And then we're diving to Saturday, because there's a ton of stuff on Saturday.
I don't really care what the weather is, in Birmingham. I still like that over. That over opened at 54.5 in the Birmingham Bowl. Now it's 49. It's going to be windy. It's probably going to be raining. I'm still going to play the over. Personally, I don't know why. I just think Favier is going to lead Vandy to an outright win. I know now they're +3. I do like Haynes King and his efforts, but the quarterback that throws the ball the best for Georgia Tech left. It was their third string quarterback, Prino, whatever his name was, and he's gone. And I think that's going to matter a little bit, even though Vandy lost their leading edge rusher, I still like that there. It's crazy that Oklahoma opened at 9 and now it's a pick 'em as we were talking about before. I mean, I know that game, is probably over by the time this comes on, but looking at those, I still don't understand now. I mean, how some of these lines, Arkansas opened at 2 and went to 1.5, and now Texas Tech 2.5 going with these, and the USC. I mean, some of these games are just crazy today. And
you're kind of liking the cues. You saying they can name the score against Washington State?
Absolutely.
That line, the line 17 and 59.5. What are you looking at, Case, right now in the 4 ball games going off today?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to lay 17.5, but I guess if you're just starved for action, really want something on this game, I mean, it can never be Washington State. I don't even know who's coaching them. Like, their entire staff's gone, obviously including their Arbuckle, the up-and-coming OC, and John Mateer both going to Oklahoma. And meanwhile, Syracuse looks like they have everyone, and Fran Brown, their first-year coach, has really been beating his chest about how if you're here, you're playing, we care about this bowl game. So I don't know. It just seems like two polar opposites in terms of who's there, philosophy. I mean, like 17.5 is pretty tough, but Syracuse has scored a lot this year. They've also been kind of careless with the ball at times. I'll never forget that pick game I was on, the big of the 3 pick sixes in the first half. So I didn't do anything on the total there, but maybe I even look over at 59. That's pretty high. Yeah, I'm on Syracuse a little bit below the 17, but if you really wanted action, that one might be okay. I think my biggest bet today actually was on a total. This bowl season is just insane. You look at the numbers. I bet under, I don't even think I can give this out anymore, but I bet under 62 on Arkansas, Texas Tech. It's 52 now. You just looked at all the guys that they had out and stuff. I'm kind of surprised by the line movement here. I guess if I had to pick a side, it'd be Arkansas. I know their weekend and they're going to look a lot different, but I feel like Texas Tech's kind of been a fraud all year. What they did doesn't really match up with their statistical profile. So especially if it got to 3, I would say fire away on Arkansas. I don't know if the Vandy game will be going on, but I also agree with Ty. Kind of like Vandy there. I feel like it's kind of a sell high on Georgia Tech. They look so good down the stretch of the season, but you take the full sample, and I don't necessarily think they should be favored here. It seems like a coin flip game to me. And you guys tell me about the conditions, I might like Vandy even more. I feel like that's the kind of game they want. They want to run the play clock down, grind one out, physical game. So I kind of like Vandy there. And then I'll be at the Las Vegas Bowl tonight. I've only ever missed one since I've lived here covering it. God, this one from the side, I don't really have anything. When it opened, I see it opening as low as 1.5. I kind of like Texas A&M. I didn't do anything. And then earlier this week, I saw you get all the way to 4.5. And I was like, man, I kind of like USC now. Didn't do anything. Now it's settled probably right in the middle where it should be at 3. I did bet a little bit on the over 51. It's moved a little bit now. I still see it. It looks like there's still at least 152.5 out there. I still probably think over in this game. I know USC's lost a lot of weapons, but one of them was Woody Marks, who I think losing him that will probably contribute more to an over because they wanted to be a running team this year. They ran a lot of clock, just handed the ball off to him. That's not an option anymore. I know they lost a lot of receivers too, but I still think they have a chance to crack Texas A&M. And I like Colin Klein with time to prepare. I think he's kind of a creative offensive coordinator, maybe not the best game to game, but I feel like both will be able to put up points here. So if I had to make a play on that game, it would be over. But yeah, I don't know. But both sides, you can make a compelling case for a 3.
K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com over the 400 win plateau earlier this year. Make sure you check out K4Wins.com for all of our free plays. You can check it out. And of course, you can listen to our podcast wherever they're available. Tony Kurre Radio. I've got over 18 different shows. You can go back and everything's documented. You can see all of our plays from weeks on end. Penn State, Boise State, 11. Texas, 13.5 against Arizona State. Ohio State, 2.5. Oregon. And Notre Dame catching 2 against Georgia. Any particular line movements or any murmuring going on from any of the big dogs out there in Las Vegas about someone dropping a buttload, some maybe furniture store owner dropping a shitload of money on Ohio State or something in the next couple of days?
I still haven't really heard anything. they'll still be limits will still be getting much bigger over this weekend. So maybe we'll have more movement there. But I think we talked about last time on the show just how tight the playoff lines look. And it still kind of looks like that to me. I haven't bet any of these games, surprisingly, still. I'd still love, I think we talked about it last time. I'd love to see Oregon touch 3. I'm definitely leaning Oregon in that spot. But I don't think it's really smart strategically to ever just take a +2.5 this far out, because you might as well try to get to the key number. I think there's a ton of love for Ohio State right now after what they did to Tennessee. It's just, to me, it's hard to replicate that effort on back-to-back weeks. I loved what Dan Lanning said this week. I know every coach says, we got to beat good teams to win the championship anyway, but I heard him say, well, we'd rather play Ohio State right now than later on. We'd rather have that extra time to prepare. Obviously they had to play a game. Oregon was the healthier side anyway. Now they've had some time to put some stuff in. So I'm definitely leaning Oregon there, but I would tell everyone to wait and see if this somehow touches 3. And even if it doesn't, if it goes the other way, like numbers from below 3 don't really matter. It's pretty rare a game lands on 1 or 2. I think ironically the first game between these two teams did, but I would wait a little bit on that one. I'm interested to see what way it's going. It's been one-way traffic on Ohio State and Georgia so far in the 2 really competitive games, but I think the biggest money is still yet to weigh in.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of blowouts early and then a couple of ball games late that look really, really good here on the first day of 2025. And Kai, we talked about this earlier. We talked about in the starting lineup while Kip and, of course, Case were out there in Las Vegas. The Ohio State-Oregon game, to me, looks like the national title game. It's unfortunate those two can't play for a national title against each other because I think they're the 2 best teams. What do you see so far?
It's one of the reasons why I'm glad we have a show upcoming Monday to really get into it, because I think that there's you're still sitting back waiting. I still want to sit back and wait and see Monday and even into Tuesday, because I'm not so sure that that's the national championship game. I don't sleep on Texas. Texas may have lost to Georgia a couple of times, okay, but just.
And then don't sleep on Notre Dame too. I've been saying that all year long. I've got everybody and their mother looking at that Georgia line, going, "You kidding me? I can get Georgia -2 against Notre Dame. If that game's 3 weeks ago, they're probably a 10 or 11 point dog against Georgia. Notre Dame's playing some really good football. They're getting it done. So I expect that to be a pretty tight game too. Could be an ugly game, but. A lot of it has to do with Georgia's quarterback play. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's dive into it here. 8 games on Saturday. We've got everything popping up and some really good prices, some really good value going on. Case, we'll start with you. What's popping up to you on Saturday? Give me your best bets for Saturday bowls.
I just ran through today's and it seemed like I had a bet on almost every one. I don't have as much. Saturday I was part of the early Miami line movement at -1. I think I'd still play them at -3.5. I know 3.5 gets sketchy, but I feel like they're just going to be able to score and points games where there's a lot of points. I don't know if 3.5 is as prohibitive as it normally is. You've seen this correction obviously because Cam Ward's come out and said he's playing. A few of their other NFL guys have come out and said they're playing, but I don't know if just 2.5 points in their direction is quite enough. I wouldn't be surprised if some bigger money comes in on Miami again. So in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, I am on Miami. I think the one right after that's the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. And I took the points there. Colorado State +3 against Miami of Ohio. Toledo obviously had a good showing yesterday. Bowling Green didn't know. I'm just always kind of skeptical of these MAC teams. I think the Mountain West was significantly better than the MAC this year. And Colorado State was right there. They had to stumble down the stretch for UNLV to get in the title game. I looked at this as more like a pick 'em than getting the full 3 points. I do see some books. It's gotten off the 3 this morning. So this might be the opposite of the Oregon-Ohio State game. I would say bet this one now. Make sure you get the 3. You always want that. So I would take Colorado State +3. And it looks like the only other side I bet for Saturday, the game after that, the Military Bowl. I like East Carolina +6. I bet +6 against NC State. It's already up to 6.5 now. Maybe you wait now too and see if you can get that at 7 because obviously it's moving against me. But they always play. This is not usually how I handicap games, but I guess I'm channeling my inner Kip since he's not here, since he's always the history guy. But this series, East Carolina always goes all out against NC State. I think their campus is only like an hour apart. NC State won't play them every year. So I feel like it's a big deal to East Carolina. That's really secondary to me, but just the way they finished the season once they fired their coach. I know we were on them a lot early in the year because I think they have more talent than most people realize. They fire Mike Houston. They bring in the interim coach whose name escapes me right now. They've now hired him full time, and they've been really good down the stretch with him. NC State has a lot of injuries, banged up. I'm kind of surprised this line is this high, so I'm going to take a shot with East Carolina, but maybe the right move is to wait around and see if it goes to 7.
Yeah, East Carolina, kind of the redheaded stepchild of the Carolinas, and I saw an interesting number. They are 13-4 against any team with Carolina in their names the last 17 games. And you look at the last couple of years where they'll have a game against North Carolina or South Carolina, they'll get beat, and then they play another Carolina in the bowl games, and they just blow the doors off the Carolina. So yeah, they've always played with a chip on their shoulder. If I get East Carolina, I think they actually played Birmingham a couple of years ago. If I get East Car, I get the Pirates +7, and I love that fan base too. If you can sit in a stadium full of Pirate fans, it's pretty fun. It's a lot of fun, so I like those plays. Kai, what do you got? What's poking out to you here? 8 games on Saturday.
That one is very interesting. That's a 6-6 versus 7-5 matchup that we talked about before the bowl season comes, because the 6-6 team that's fighting for the winning record usually are supposed to win that game. However, this would go against it. I like ECU, especially if I can get it at 7. I think NC State's going to be missing more players in this matchup. It's kind of interesting that the very first game we got UConn and North Carolina opened at 6. Now North Carolina's a 2.5-point favorite, 8.5 point swing there. Who is their biggest win? UConn's biggest win might be versus UAB. North Carolina's biggest win was against Minnesota in game 1. So who really cares, in that bowl game? But I believe it or not, and I don't know why, I just think I'm just still leaning UConn. And if I could get them at 3.5, I would. And it's probably a horrible bet. And looking at all the matchups, North Carolina, every matchup favors North Carolina, from the offensive line, the defensive line, the secondary, kickers, coaches, everything. But I'd still play UConn. Two of my favorite bets are shockingly, team totals. Miami over 30.5. I think they go well above this. And then, we haven't talked about it at all yet, but, BYU, Colorado. Colorado's 54.5, but I think Colorado goes over their 28.5. BYU may win the game, and I saw an interesting part on this. I think I was watching ESPN. I hate to give him a shout out, but I'll even say Fortenbaugh, I think, actually knows what he's talking about here. I think Dion cares. How much does he want to play Shedeur, Travis Hunter, all those guys? He said they're playing, and I believe him, but they may only play for a half, and then second half backup. But they could get 28 in the first half, then the backups only have to get 3. So I really like the over there. And then, Louisiana Tech has 16 transfers out against Army. Army's just going to go about their business. Now, 16.5 is a lot of points, but what does Louisiana Tech, have going into that game? Kind of makes me wonder. And then, something that you talked about the other day on the show, Tony, and you said you liked Boston College, and now it's at 4. Well, you got Boston College at 7-5, Nebraska 6-6. So there's that. Who cares? Tony Curry stat again. But, Nebraska's 7 years without a bowl game. Nebraska has 20 transfers and 8 starters out in this game. And they're still a 4-point favorite. Somebody knows something. Matt Rule's lousy in bowl games too. He's 1-3 straight up and 1-3 against the spread. And I love Boston College. I got it at 3, and I'm going to buy it back at 4 too. I'm going to take it up. You mentioned that Colorado Syracuse game, Colorado BYU game, the Alamo Bowl. That looks like it could just be one hell of a great bowl game. Both teams are wanting to play. It looks like all the players are wanting to get into it. It's about a 3.5 point line. They're evenly matched. BYU, of course, going into the season and halfway through the season, everyone talked about perhaps they were going to be one of these playoff teams. Colorado certainly right there sniffing a Big 12 championship as well. But I think both teams, they want to end the season. I think everyone thinks because it's Dion that they may show up a flash, play a couple players, and then lay an egg. I think Colorado's going to play all out in this ball game, but I think it's going to be a little too tight to call which side on that. I'm still going to go with Bill O'Brien. I like Boston College plus the 4. Nebraska's red zone offense, by the way, 117th. And with all those players out, they do not do well when they get in the red zone. It's going to be a sloppy day, too. Lousy weather. Boston College's rush defense is fantastic. They rank 23rd. And again, Matt Rule, not good in bowl games. I think Bill O'Brien, this games mean something to him, man. The fact that he actually got to be bowl eligible in his first year at Boston College, this is something he can sell at BC. And perhaps for his next coaching gig, because I don't think he wants to be at Boston College for the rest of his life. Bill O'Brien's been there, done that. I think he's looking for his next gig. He's got to win now, so I'm going to take Boston College. Louisiana TCU is a really interesting game, the New Mexico Bowl.
TCU has scored more than 34 points in every game but 3 games this year. They pretty much named their score. They're going to be without their 2 wide receivers. They've got a bunch of guys sitting as well too. But I think there's going to be up and down the field. I think TCU could score every stinking time they got the football. I'm going to take the team total over. I'm getting that from Kai. Was not a team total guy, but I love TCU the total there. And I also like the over 59 overall. I'm not sure about Louisiana and their offense and how they're going to play there. And then Iowa State and Miami, another game that should be a great game. But I think that Miami, quite frankly, I think they could lay an egg today. I think they've lost 2 of their last 3 games. They could have backed into the playoffs. They didn't make it. And obviously, they're giving up 3.5 to an Iowa State, a Cyclone squad who's not used to being in these big bowl games. They had a hell of a great season. I think they were picked on 11th or 12th or something. They were not picked to go to a great bowl game this year in Iowa State. So I'm going to take Iowa State. Plus the 3 points in that particular game as well. Anything else jumping at you guys on Saturday? I can be honest with you too, and I know this is the first year we've had the 12 teams, and if we had Kip on right here, I'm sure he'd be talking about the committee and how lousy they did for the job picking the games. I get that. I still think it's one of the greatest sports of all time. I still think it's fantastic. I will watch Miami and Iowa State over anything else on television. I don't care if it's first run. I don't care if it's a World Series game. I'm watching college football. So give me all the college football you can. I think it's fantastic. And the fact the playoffs are lasting an entire month, I think is just great for the sport. I can't believe we still have another week and a half to enjoy all these games. Anything else poking out to you guys?
I agree with you. I think eventually here we're going to get some good games. I don't know if it's this week. Maybe we'll get more blowouts, but at least what do we have? 7 left in the playoffs. I think I'd set the total at 3 or 3.5. Good games.
It is so fun though to see these teams play more than once. And in case I can't, we're going to be doing the show again on Monday. I'm really going to lean on you because much like the NBA playoffs, where you have a 7-game series, nothing changes from night to night. The only thing that changes is the court. You may be in LA one night, and you may be in Boston the next night, and that's the only thing that moves the line. So the line stayed the same. Now, how do you handicap that matchup? You go, okay, what if it was 3 last night, tonight it's 3.5, but they blew them out by 30 last night? Does that mean they're better than by 30? No, it doesn't. You just have to be really smart about how you handicap games. So now we get a chance to see Oregon maybe for 3 games and see how that changes along the lines. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be fun. And we'll see if things change by Mondays. Like I said, I don't feel I don't feel super strong about any of the playoff games, unfortunately. Maybe the 2 underdogs in the big games. But just as a teaser, if you watch the starting lineup Saturday, naturally, Kip and I picked opposite sides on all 4 against the spread. So I guess we're going to have a winner in all 4 games. But
there you go. I know the legend went with a lot of the favorites, and I think I kind of went even on the 4 ball games too. So check that out. ABC 3340. By the way, if you are not local, you're international or national, you can always go to their website, abc3340.com, and check out our show. It's usually up sometime mid-Saturday afternoon. Of course, this show will be up on the Tony Curry Radio Podcast Network here in just a couple hours. So we're looking forward to that. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Looking forward to on Monday. We'll break it down. Then we'll have the big dogs, and we'll be having our national title talks, and we'll find out exactly how clear the air will be by next Monday. But we appreciate you. Give your dad a big hug for us, Case, and appreciate you checking in.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.